Good day, Rare Elvis Photos. On this day, June 19th, in Elvis history, in 55, Elvis performed at Magnolia Gardens in Houston, Texas. It was a matinee show. Then in 1956, Colonel Parker made a deal for an Elvis Presley fan magazine, and the photographer followed Elvis on his date with Barbara Hearn to Libertyland. On Black Community Day, Memphis police provide crowd control on the Midway, and Elvis threw balls to win Hearn the prize. And that was a very big thing in 1957 as well, with being Black Community Day. Elvis was actually breaking the law being there, but Elvis didn't care. He didn't. Boundaries did not hold him. 1957, Elvis received lead sheets and demos for 2 new songs from Mike Stoller. In 58, on this date, he had military service in Fort Hood, Texas. In 59, Elvis was in Germany. No, actually, he was in Paris, with Lamar, Rex, and Charlie Hodge. Then on 1960, as we're still looking at these lovely early pictures, there was a newspaper insert, Parade Sunday magazine, Elvis Presley cover, fighting to stay on top. And that'll be coming up here soon. Obviously, these pictures are going by right now of Elvis with Barbara Hearn. But 1961, he was filming G.I. Blues. The following short article in Billboard on June 19, 1961, a month after Surrender exited the Hot 100 chart, indicates that RCA may have overestimated the record's sales potential. Copies of Surrender given away in Canada. Station CKWX in Vancouver, BC gave away 3,000 recordings of Surrender by Elvis Presley this month in a contest which pulled in more than 10,000 letters. According to CKWX DJ Red Robinson, RCA Victor had overpressed the Presley disc, so they turned the excess wax over to the jock and suggested he build a promotion around it. Robinson offered the disc free to the first 3,000 dollars who wrote in and merely said they liked Elvis. Well, I would have been one of the lucky fans that would have got that if I was around in 1961. 1962, instead of staying with the Barrises as promised to Priscilla's parents, Priscilla moved into the house on Bellagio Road one day before Elvis decided to show her Las Vegas. With the entourage, they traveled in the motorhome and stayed at the Sahara for the next 12 days. In 1965, on this date, Elvis Presley enjoyed his 15th UK #1 single with the rendition of Crying in the Chapel, which became a hit for 17-year-old Daryl Glenn when it topped the Cashbox bestsellers chart in 1953. To date, there have been over 50 known recorded versions of the song, but none as successful as Presley's, which would be eventually awarded platinum status by RIAA. Frankie and Johnny was also being filmed in 1965. 1967, Elvis reported to MGM for pre-production of Speedway, beginning with a 10 a.m. music meeting and a 2 p.m. wardrobe fitting. According to Peter Gorelnik and Ernst Jorgensen's book, Elvis Day by Day, on that first day, Elvis presented his co-star, Nancy Sinatra, with a car that had Speedway painted on one door and starring Nancy and Elvis on the other. In 1972, Elvis performed at the Henry Leavitt Arena in Wichita, Kansas, with a crowd of 10,000. 1973, late at night, Elvis had minor surgery on his foot in Memphis. In 1974, Elvis performed at the Civic Center Auditorium in Amarillo, Texas at 8:30 p.m. The crowd was 10,000, and Elvis wore his peacock suit with the original belt. So here's a little review. Elvis has Amarillo crowd all shook up by Lois Reed by the Amarillo Globe News. June of 74, I ain't seen his face yet, but oh wow, moaned a teenager, much as her mother might have moaned nearly 20 years ago. Minutes before Elvis Presley ran on stage, the blue lights went down, 2001 came up, and then the master rock and roller was there. Wednesday night in Civic Center Auditorium. Strutting on stage dressed in peacock blue and white suit, Elvis took over for an hour's worth of awe and delight on the part of the audience. What the comic had said earlier in the evening was true. Trying to be sexy next to Elvis is like trying to be tall next to Wilt Chamberlain. Teenagers and ladies freaked out, and cowboys and kids all screamed and clapped and swayed with the gyrator. Elvis's popularity and endurance as a box office draw cut across the barriers of generation, creed, and musical taste. All kinds came to see Elvis, and he gave them all kinds of music. Flashbulbs popped like kamikaze fireflies as he bumped out to Standards of Rock and Roll, CC Rider, I Got a Woman, Polk Salad Annie, and I'm All Shook Up. The audience was jammed with us at the Civic Center for a coveted 60 Minutes with Elvis. Some left with scarves thrown from the stage, 2 left with kisses, and a lot of envious friends. Each time a different song swelled up, so did the cheers. And tears for those of us old enough to remember how early Elvis on the Ed Sullivan Show. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, and you never know how much I love you. Fever put mom and daughter alike into a frenzy. And Dad, who shelled out for the tickets to the sellout crowd, clapped in time. Elvis pleased them all with Why Me Lord and a reverent medley of Dixie, Battle Hymn of Republic combined with Heartbreak Hotel and Let Me Be There to demonstrate the versatility of a star. Elvis backs himself up with a good bit of Texas talent. His advanced groups, however, were just soul food hours before the main dish. Elvis pioneered the bump and grind of pop singing stars, but it hasn't lost its effect on an audience or reporter. Despite being copied by thousands in 2 decades, Elvis doesn't let on that he's approaching 40 either. He's still the big boss man, and he slipped into I Can't Help Falling in Love with You. The audience was standing. He swung a little to the left and a little to the right. Noisy Panhandle area residents cheered as he darted off stage. The King. Now, in 1977, Elvis performed at the Civic Auditorium Arena in Omaha, Nebraska at 8:30 p.m. The crowd was 10,604, and Elvis wore the Mexican sundial suit with the original belt, and the show was filmed to the TV special that CBS later called Elvis in Concert. Here's a review. Elvis is mellowed, but he's still the king by Steve Milberg. Omaha World Herald. June 20th, 1977. Okay, let's start out by saying that Elvis Presley has put on several pounds, that he no longer sings very much rock and roll, and that the pelvic gyrations that once so scandalized Ed Sullivan are now more suggested than actually performed, but he still has an awful lot to offer. The usual hysteria and publicity that surrounded a visit by Elvis were magnified considerably by the presence of 9 CBS TV cameras inside the city auditorium. Elvis said the cameras taping the show for a fall special made him nervous, but they seemed to inspire him too. In a way, it's unfair to refer to Elvis Presley's rock and roll days. The man is 42 years after all, and most in the crowd of 10,000 were not rock and roll types. He sprinkled in his old hits throughout the concert like Jailhouse Rock and Teddy Bear. The old spirit still showed in flashes, but it was on special gospel numbers such as the stunning How Great Thou Art that Elvis showed the awesome power of his voice. The fact that he does have one of the greatest voices of popular music has been obscured by the mystique that has surrounded him. But he froze the audience with a powerful note he hit during How Great Thou Art and momentarily stilled the rowdy vocal admiration of many of the women. It wasn't still for long, however, because Presley's sex appeal has survived the years. The pounds and change in musical direction, he came off as both the supremely confident star and the bashful, disarming country boy at the same time. A pretty disarming combination. When Presley took the stage amid screams and explosions of flashbulbs, he didn't run or walk on. He swaggered, with the half smile, half sneer that said he could have any woman in the place, and he knew it. The king surveyed his domain. His onstage patter was not very glib. He introduced one of his backing singers with, "Take JD, please," but it seemed to strike just the right note of, "Sure do thank all of you people for coming out to see me, and I sure do hope you like the show." The crowd was allowed to come near the stage only when Elvis was handing out scarves, which were draped around his neck by an aide. Frantic female fans grabbed for the precious mementos, and tugs of war often developed. One winner rolled the prize into a ball and stuffed it down her bosom. Presley started the show with an acoustic guitar draped around his neck. He proved he knew how to play it still during the very first song I recorded, That's Alright. His white jumpsuit may have cut a lot fuller than his clothes used to be, and his moves are reduced mostly to leg twitches and an occasional shake, but the king won't ever lack for subjects. Well, I hope you enjoyed that review of the June 19th date in Elvis Presley history. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, wonderful week, wonderful month, wonderful life. This is Rare Elvis Photos on YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok.